Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the November 21st, 2019 meeting of the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency. Will the clerk please call roll and establish a quorum?
Thank you. Matt Conant.
Here.
Nick Alves.
Here.
Tom Barandis.
Here.
Brian Holloway.
Here.
Cyril Shaw.
Here.
Angelique Ashby. Jeff Harris.
Present?
Rick Jennings.
Present.
Sue Frost. Don Natoli. Howard Schmidt.
Here.
Patrick Kennedy.
Here.
Lisa Nava. Here. We do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask our Vice Chair to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. And next are the announcements.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting of SAFCA is being broadcast live and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14 and will be re-aired on Saturday, November 23rd at 2 p.m. and Sunday, November 24th at 9 a.m. This meeting is also webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv, and streaming video of the board meeting is available on SAFCA's website within 48 hours after the meeting. Members of the audience who wish to address the board should fill out a speaker form. They're located here on the dais, on the lectern, and bring it up to me. When addressing the board, please identify yourself for the record, and please limit your comments for 3 minutes. Thank you.
Very good. I don't have any speaker slips, but is there anybody in the audience who has a comment on an item not on the agenda? Don't seem to have any, so we'll move on to the next item, number 1.
Which is the Executive Director's Report for November 21st, 2019.
Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, members of the board. Chair Harris. It's just a couple things real quick. We're watching today with great interest because the Congress did not pass an appropriations bill for fiscal year 2020, which started October 1st of 2019. They passed a continuing resolution which ends tonight at midnight. So the House did pass yesterday a continuing resolution which takes us through December 3rd or 20th, I'm sorry. And then the Senate just about an hour or so ago passed it and send it to the president. He must sign it before midnight, and every indication is he will. So that'll at least keep the Corps funded and going on our projects for a little while. What it doesn't do is we're waiting for the appropriation bills to pass so that we can see if we can compete for some additional funding for Natomas through a work plan. But at least we won't get our project shut down with the government shut down. So that's the latest on that. And then the only other thing I wanted to share with you is the House of Representatives Transportation Infrastructure Committee. That's the committee that does our project authorizations. And they held a hearing on Tuesday morning. The title is Concepts for the Next Water Resources Development Act, which they're shooting for a 2020 Development Act. The idea of promoting resiliency of our nation's water resources infrastructure. So we have been working real closely with National Waterways Conference, and Julie Effner was asked to testify at that conference. So I handed out their testimony, and on page 6 there, it's in, the highlight didn't show up very well on the black and white copies, but they did include our YOLO bypass initiative that we are trying to get included in the WARDA 2020 as an example of how this would help with the resiliency in our infrastructure. So it's at the bottom of page 6 and 7 there. So I just wanted to share that with you. So that was a good step to have that national organization supporting our initiative on that. And with that, that's all I really had for right now on the ED report.
All right, thank you, Rick. Thank you very much. Our next item is consent matters. That would be
And items 1 through 6 are in order.
There you go. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or concerns from the Board of Directors? Seeing none, all those in favor of consent, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Consent carries.
Separate matters, item 7, information, the Bright Landfill Remediation Project update.
Mr. Tibbetts, before you get started, I just wanted to personally welcome Ashley Barker and Joe Nyland from Geosyntec. They're sitting in the audience, and they gave us a fantastic tour of the Bright Landfill project. I attended just the other day, and our Vice Chair Kennedy attended, I think, a week or two prior to that. But it is really tremendous how much work has been accomplished in this construction year, especially given the late start due to the late winter rains. Really fantastic project, and if any of the other board of directors want to see what SAFCA can achieve, it's really a good example. Mr. Tibbetts.
Thank you, Chair Harris and members of the board. Dan Tibbetts, Principal Engineer with SAFCA. I'm here to present an informational item, the status of the Bright Landfill Remediation Project. So real quick on background, the Bright Landfill is located immediately north of the Sacramento bypass and immediately east of the Yola bypass east levee. And it was a burn dump operated from 1940s or before up until the 1970s. The Sacramento bypass north levee is being set back, and the Yola bypass east levee is being set back for both the state's Levels project and the Corps' Common Features project. And the Bright Landfill needs to be relocated to make way for that. The Bright Landfill, well, I guess I can't have a pointer, but it's in this graphic here. The Bright Landfill is literally on the right side of the existing Sacramento bypass, and it's well within the expanded bypass footprint that is depicted on this graphic. In February 2017, SAFCA entered into a funding agreement with DWR to relocate and remediate the landfill. Alternative evaluation was conducted, and it was determined that the best alternative to proceed with was DTSC, a Department of Toxic Substance Control compliant CAMU site, Corrective Action Management Unit, was the best alternative to proceed with. All documents were prepared for environmental compliance, design, DTSC approval, and a construction contract was awarded in May of 2019. And groundbreaking occurred at the site in middle of June of 2019. So immediately after groundbreaking activities, activities began at the existing landfill and at the relocated landfill, the CAMU site. At the landfill, there was, so the picture on the bottom left is the pre-construction conditions. You can slightly see a mound there. That is the cover over the waste material. A cofferdam was, actually two cofferdams were installed in a canal immediately north of the landfill that had contaminated waste spill in. And the soil cover material on top of the landfill was removed, and then starting a screening of waste began at the landfill. At the CAMU site, the foundation was prepared, graded, and compacted, and that's what you see in the bottom left photograph. Then a geosynthetic clay liner was installed on top of that, and that's, you see that from an aerial perspective in the bottom right photo, and then from standing on the ground in the upper right photo. Then after the geosynthetic clay liner was installed, an operation soil layer was placed on top of that, and then the beginning of screening of waste or placement of waste material. And then the photograph on the upper right shows the installation of the soil operations layer on top of the geosynthetic clay liner, and then the bottom left photograph, the black brownish material you see in the background is actually waste material from the landfill that's been placed in the CAMU site. Initially, about 3 feet of contaminated material was placed in the CAMU, and then there was about 20,000 cubic yards of waste in the existing landfill that the lead was in a form that is soluble. So if it ever becomes saturated, it could leach out into the groundwater table. So to deal with this waste, a reagent was applied to the material. The material was screened at the landfill and then transported to the CAMU. And then a reagent was applied to the material and blended in. And that's the operation you see on the 2 right photographs. And what the reagent does is binds with the soluble lead to prevent it from ever becoming soluble. After the waste was processed that required special treatment, then full production on all remaining waste occurred, and screening was eliminated from the operation as a time savings measure. At this point, we were actually towards the end of August, and we're still trying to get the project complete in 2019. So we eliminated screening from the operation, and we're in full production on relocating material from the landfill over to the CAMU site. In the September timeframe, it became apparent that there was much more waste than had been anticipated in the design process. What was encountered during the design phase, there were numerous explorations, but in the grand scheme of things, not much of the area was actually explored. Trenches were done and characterized the extent of waste. Well, when we got into production, we found that during operations of the landfill, they had dug pits in the ground much deeper than anticipated, and there was waste placed in those pits. That equated to much more volume of waste than anticipated. Additionally, it was found that waste extended beyond the property acquired by Safeca and the property that the north levee of the Sacramento bypass sits on. That's seen here. The wall you see in the left photograph is basically right along the property line of Safeca's property, and the darker lens you see is contaminated waste that extends into basically towards the Sacramento bypass levee. The photo on the right is standing on top of that and looking down that. So between the deeper extent of the bottom of waste material and this wall of material that extends towards the Sacramento bypass levee, there's approximately 15 to 20,000 cubic yards beyond what we currently have storage capacity at the CAMU site. So what that has resulted in is the need to extend the project. We couldn't, by the time the material was identified in the up against the Sacramento bypass levee, it was too close to the flood season to safely deal with that material this year. So we then decided we have to button up for the winter and extend construction into 2020. So between the extra material we had at the landfill and the material in the Sacramento bypass levee, we have approximately 15 to 20,000 yards of material that we'll have to address in 2020. We then, regarding buttoning up for the site, we had to winterize the site to prevent damage and from contaminated material running off. Clean soil was brought in, and at the landfill, it was brought up to the final grade of the landfill. Additionally, the vertical slope that was left close to the Sacramento bypass levee was buttressed to prevent stability and seepage problems with the Sacramento bypass levee, and then the entire site was hydroseeded. At the CAMU site, clean soil was brought in to cover all of the contaminated waste. And then a product called Gorilla Snot. It's basically a, yes, interesting name for the product. It basically, once it's applied over the surface, will prevent precipitation from infiltrating into the landfill, into the CAMU site. So that was applied over the landfill, and all SWIP measures have been put into place. So both sites are now completely winterized and ready to withstand this coming winter. As for going forward, with the remaining 15 to 20,000 yards of material, we're currently performing an alternatives evaluation to determine how best to address that additional material. Once that alternatives evaluation is complete and a recommended plan has been made, we will work with DTSC to get approval of implementing that plan. We will prepare any necessary CEQA environmental documentation. We will seek to get a funding agreement amendment from DWR to cover the additional cost of the remediation. And it's anticipated that in next spring and summer, the remaining construction will be completed. Any questions?
Sure.
Before we go to questions, I just wanted to put one out there. The 15,000 to 20,000 additional cubic yards of material, how does that compare to the amount of material that's already in the CAMU? So how many total yards were already removed and displaced over to the site?
Approximately 140,000 cubic yards.
So it puts it in perspective how much is left. Much smaller project. For the benefit of the directors, you should know that this mound has been dubbed Mount Tibbetts. And I think for good reason. So any questions from directors? Director Natoli.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask about the 15 or 20,000 cubic yards. I appreciate the chair's question because it talked, I guess, against the perspective of what's been moved and what was anticipated. But if experience is any teacher to me, is that the characterization of sites, people do borings. I heard you say something, just trenches and so forth. I understand that maybe going off the site that we acquired, but who was responsible for doing the initial characterization? Because 15 or 20,000 cubic yards, albeit if we moved, 130, 140, it's far less, but that's still a lot of material to have not characterized. If you were saying a couple thousand yards or something like that, but 15 or 20,000 cubic yards is a lot of material. So, and who did the characterization? I guess that's my
Well,
question.
there's a consultant team and led by Safeca, so design team. But what I can say about a landfill that is operated for at least a 50-year period, and especially during a time of the wild, wild west where
Yeah. Okay.
the rules weren't followed, there were no rules.
There were no
and
rules,
Nothing was
yeah.
followed. Like the trenches, who knew that somebody took a dozer out there and dug trenches down to basically sea level, close to 0 feet mean sea level, and put waste in there.
Well, nobody would know that, but if you do corings or borings, then you're able to pick up some of that anyway.
We picked up some of that, but the trenches were placed sporadically, and we didn't encounter them.
So the trenches are the pits, or the pits are different than the trenches?
One and the same.
Okay.
It was, we could have kept doing explorations and probably added another year to the design process to better characterize it, but this is for something that's operated for such a long period of time, so many different operators during the process, so many different processes followed. There's
Yeah,
really no
I get
way
it. It's hard to know.
characterize.
You're never going to know for certain until you get into it. I get that. I guess the other question, though, that at least draws my attention is that knowing what you just said, because if you do that as a presumption, if it's operated for, 40 years, give or take, and not knowing exactly what you had out there, how much extra capacity did you build to accommodate for? I assume that just like people building contingencies on budgets and so forth, that you plotted for some additional material, and what was that? But obviously, your capacity, as you've described it, so.
Right. There was actually, based on the design analysis, there was a quantity of material calculated. There was 20% contingency added on top of that, and that's what the CAMU site, that's the basis of the 140,000.
And so we're going to end up with 40% more material than the contingency, than what we had calculated for, but obviously the contingency took 20% of that, and you got another 20% roughly. I guess you'll know for certain at the end of it. So basically, that's a lot.
Agreed, it's a lot, but the nature of this type of project, you're never really going to know until you get into the project. So
Yeah, again, this is not being critical. I'm just, again, asking the question because you button the site up, you're under tight timelines, and now you're going to have to reopen this again, which goes through all that. All the regulators get a chance to look at it again, and then, and we're hustling, to do that. And it's just, again, you couldn't have predicted it. I accept that, but it seemed like a lot of material to me that was missed.
agreed, it is a lot of material.
Okay, thanks.
So just to follow up on that comment, Director Natoli, we've struggled with the landfill here in the city at Sutter's Landing to a significant extent because the amount of trash that was dumped, some was authorized, but much of it was not. And as the city has acquired more parcels, we've been extremely surprised by where trash was dumped and what the characterization of it. I mean, I think the point that Dan Tibbetts makes about a long-term landfill is there are a lot of surprises. You could core on a grid of every 2 feet and you might find, everything, but that in itself is a tremendous expense and takes a lot of time, so it's kind of a balancing act. I think, in the long run, what I would say is expect a lot of surprises when you're trying to do a clean closure of a landfill because you're going to be surprised. But it is a point, Safeco doesn't do a lot of this type of work. Hopefully we don't have to close any more landfills ever. But maybe in the future, if we ever encountered it, we might spend a little bit more time doing initial exploration.
No, and I understand. In the district that I represent, I have Kiefer landfill, and, that hasn't been without its issues because of, dumping over a 50-plus year period. And so I understand certainly water contamination and areas that aren't well demarcated as far as the, the placement of that, particularly when you have areas that, to your description, kind of the Wild West, and, come here, and for a few bucks, I'll take care of the material, and that's how it was disposed of, so, and we're paying for that now. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Next is Director Avdis.
Thank you, Chair. I did have the opportunity to tour the site, and I have to tell you, definitely have a new appreciation for the magnitude of the endeavor that we embarked on. Certainly, I agree with the Chair's comments. I don't want to see Safeco in the business of cleaning up landfill sites, but to the degree that we had to this time, I think we did a great job, and Mr. Tibbetts, obviously under your leadership and our consultants, I think we did an excellent job. And in terms of enhancing system-wide resiliency, certainly looking forward to next year and the improvements that we're going to implement there. This is a big deal, and it shouldn't be understated. And no easy task, and it's something to be celebrated in terms of an accomplishment. So, good work.
Thank you.
Look forward to next year.
Thank you.
Director Conant.
Yes, so my question was, remember when we talked about this originally, I said, well, how confident are you in a boring? Because it's probably going to be worse than you think. But my question is, do you think we got it all, or do you think we missed some spots, or?
No, we know the bottom of the landfill. We've got to clean soil, and the only thing that's left is that wedge of material up against the Sacramento bypass levee, which is between 5,000 and 10,000 yards of material. So we are confident we know what's left.
And were there more hazardous materials than you thought, or about the same?
About the same.
Thank you. Good job.
Yeah, thanks to all concerned, and you know what? The view from Mount Tibbetts is just fine.
That's going to be one heck of a courtyard, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Actually, you didn't cover that, but you might mention that the reclamation districts are gathering together, and their courtyard will be at that adjusted level.
Yes, so it's no coincidence that the top of, I'm going to still call it the Camus site, is about at the same elevation that the future setback levees will be at. So therefore, if there is ever any distress in the Elkhorn Basin, such as a levee failure, the Camus site will be above any forecast water surface elevation in the basin. So it's an ideal place to stage flood fight operations and levee maintenance elevation activities. So ultimately, once the site is complete, we'll be moving out to work with the reclamation districts to establish a corporation yard for their flood control operations to be staged from.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 8, resolutions, a plan to expedite Safeca's real estate process to stay ahead of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers requirements. Resolution number 2019-143 authorizes the executive director to expedite the real estate process by identifying the required real estate ahead of the normal U.S. Army Corps of Engineers process. And resolution number 2019-144 amends Safeca's contracting policy to include a real estate acquisition incentive program.
Right, thank you. Should add one comment on the last discussion, actually a couple. On the, there still would have to go through a process with the reclamation districts to do a CEQA process and a decision process on whether or not they would be putting a corporation yard there. So I just didn't want anything to come across as pre-decisional on that there. So the other thing too is when we got the supplemental funding, the Assistant Secretary of the Army, Mr. James, put out a video that he sent to all the core districts telling them to move dirt. And in this case, we had to move garbage so they can move dirt. So I just want to thank Dan and team for making that happen. So last month, we talked about the challenge that we're going to have moving forward in handling the number of real estate transactions that we have coming our way in the next couple of years, and that we were going to bring a plan together here today. So what you have today, we've been looking at the process, and there's kind of 4 components that I wanted to highlight that we're looking at making modifications to. And I'll go through each of those in a little more detail, but an earlier identification of the required real estate, bringing on additional resources, and real estate incentive acquisition program, and then making decisions earlier in the process. And so let me talk through those a little bit. So first one is earlier identification of the required real estate. The Corps used to wait to give us an official take letter, and that's the one that they tell us what real estate to go and obtain. And they used to wait till they had a 90% design to do that. So given how we're all having to move at a much more compressed schedule to get these projects done, they've moved that up to the 65% design. But as we started looking at the process, even at that one, it makes it difficult by the time they get the 65% design done for us to have time to go out and obtain the real estate. And basically, it will force us to immediately go to eminent domain on everything. So we'd like to start a little earlier in identifying the required real estate with the goal of creating a more favorable process for the property owners, because going straight to eminent domain is not good for the property owners, and hopefully can help reduce the amount of eminent domain actions, and then also help us reduce the risk of delaying construction. So what we're looking at is, and we've talked to the Corps about it, we're going to sit down with them somewhere between the 35 and 65% design process where we can, and figure out, make a conscious decision, figure out what real estate, make the best cut at what real estate we need, where the borrow areas, where the staging areas, and where access areas are going to be so that we can get started before we get the official take letter. And so the only problem that is it does create the possibility of maybe getting property that under our project partnership agreement isn't creditable. So if we end up with that case, then we would first try, of course, to find a beneficial use for the project, and then if not, we would do through the surplus process, where first you'd offer it back to the property owner and then put out for surplus. We don't anticipate having that situation, and just because if it's an area that we're way off, or we could end up having to take a full piece of property, we would wait until we had the design further along. But for much of them, we can have them make a decision, okay, one, are we doing a berm there or a slurry wall? I mean, it's those types of decisions that we got to get them to make a little earlier in there so that we can get going quicker. And so going back to that, so that's one of the things that we're trying to do, and that's actually the one that will probably help us most on expediting the process there. The other is we have identified some additional resources, some surveyors and appraisers, right-of-way agents, title companies, and legal. In most cases, we brought on companies already in the past, and so we're reaching out to them to see if they can bring on additional resources, and where they can't, then we might have to go out and acquire additional more. We're in the process of doing that right now. And then making decisions a little earlier in the process. So the idea there is right now we go out, we make an offer, they make a counteroffer, then the team works back and forth with the property owners, and sometimes that goes on for several months. And so we like to shorten that process, make it less burdensome on the property owner. And so we've included in our process a new decision point where after we get the initial offer and counteroffer, then instead of the team making decisions whether to continue negotiation or accepting, it'll come either to myself or to Jason to make that decision, and hopefully we'll cut quite a bit of time, and it'll be much less burdensome on the property owner that way. The other one that we would like to initiate is a real estate acquisition incentive program. The idea being to motivate more friendly acquisitions, reduce the number of eminent domain, and shorten the process. So we modeled this after Caltrans does it, and Orange County is using it. So we modeled it after that. So what's being proposed is for transactions over $500,000, we would provide them the property owners a 10% incentive if they agree to sign the project and sale agreement within 60 days, and 20% if they'll sign it within 30 days. And so that would, and of course, the final PSA would have to be approved by the board, but that would significantly reduce our the time, and we expect significantly reduce the number of eminent domain actions that we might need to take. So the whole idea of the plan is to be more favorable towards the property owners, to expedite the project process so that our teams can handle more transactions per team. And in the long run, it's actually saving us money, because our land acquisition costs are creditable, but many of our process costs are not. And so if we reduce the process, it actually saves us money in the long run. So I just wanted to highlight, if we implement this, there'll be a number of things that'll help make the process more favorable for the property owners. I think we're really wanting to do that, because we know that they're the ones that get impacted the most from our projects. And one is for the partial and full purchases. If we able to reduce the number of eminent domain actions, we've already have in place compensation for the property owners to get their own appraisals. And then the real estate acquisition incentive program should be a favorable one for them. And then for those where we are having, unfortunately, take their homes, we do have the relocation assistance program. So basically, we have two resolutions to do that. One is, the first one is when we identify the additional real estate, we did want the board to be aware that if we end up with additional real estate that the core isn't credible, we do have that risk. We would do everything we could to right it, but we do have a little bit of risk there under our agreement with the core. And then second is the real estate acquisition incentive program. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Director Shaw is bunched up.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry. Can you turn on your mic, Cyril?
Got it. Thank you. So, Rick, having with my fellow directors sat in a number of closed session meetings where, in general, we discussed how cumbersome these acquisitions can be, and in addition to being cumbersome, how costly they can be, not just the additional acquisition costs due to the back and forth negotiations, but also the legal costs, which are significant, can be very significant. So I absolutely agree with the spirit of this, and I applaud you for the direction that we're trying to go to make things more expedient, more cost-effective. But I have a number of questions. One is that 10% number for 60 days and 20% incentive for 30 days. Besides them being nice round numbers, how did we land on those numbers? Is that Caltrans, Orange County numbers, or is it?
Those were basically the same as Orange County that we use there. We kind of modeled theirs.
In Orange County specifically, it's not for flood control
So
necessarily?
it's for
but just
transportation, right?
Okay. Because I would think that if we think about what the additional cost might be and what the savings might be using this program, maybe there'd be some cost benefit, even a simple cost benefit analysis to make sure that we truly are saving money with these numbers. So it might be something to take a look at, or at least be able to justify through some case studies. And then I appreciate that this could be creditable towards our cost share, but it could be, depending on how many properties we use and what the value is of them, it could be quite significant. So if you can remind, what is our total cost share for this that these would be creditable towards?
So for the Natomas Basin project, our cost share is about 10.5% of the $1.3 billion project. For the American River Common Features, the non-federal cost share on that one is 44% of that, and we're 30% of that, so that's about 13.5% of the $1.6 billion. So we've got a lot of room before we won't have creditable real estate LERTs.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if we don't pay it in LERTs, we're going to pay it in cash. So I mean,
Right.
it's a wash on our side.
Okay, so yeah, I just did some quick, back of the napkin conservative math, and we said hundreds of properties, but not all of those are going to be over 500,000.
No.
But I mean, once again, I'm using round numbers, but trying to be conservative. 100 properties, $1 million valuation, and they all got the 20% incentive. That'd be 20 million. So it's a significant number. So just we should keep that in mind relative to our cost share. And then the last thing is that there's two things that I think we should be aware of. Is that one is that this includes discretion to offer the incentive or not. And I just want to be sure that if property owner A is offered the incentive and property owner B is not, does property owner B have a case to make to say, well, I should be offered the same incentives? Why were they offered to A and not to B, even though B's, in their mind, B's property is comparable to A? So is that something that we need to be concerned about, or the potential for that to happen?
I don't believe so. I don't know, Paul, if you want to add to that.
We actually we're just talking about that today internally, and the idea is to come up with a consistent program. So I think the intent is we would make this incentive program available to everyone.
Yeah.
So, because just for that reason, we
Okay.
don't want to offer it to A and not B.
Right, and so, yeah, and that's partly my point is I think we would have to, or at least have very specific criteria for which, a property would qualify. Okay, so that,
And actually, Jason has requested me to draft language to include in our standard offer letter to incorporate this incentive program, should you approve it.
and then the other issue that I thought of that that I think we should consider is that if we eliminate this program at some point and property owner C decides that, or we engage with property owner C after this program has ended, is there any case to be made there that they should have been offered the incentive? Or would it be wise to maybe create an expiration date for the program so that we can say, well, this is the stated time when the program ends?
We're hoping, once we get through this, that our projects are done for a while. So I don't think we need to put an expiration on it. If we, in the future, engage in a new project, we probably should revisit whether we want to continue to do that. I mean, right now, if we don't do something like this, I don't think we're able to stay ahead of the construction. So, and on the other thing, too, if you want to take that term discretion out, I don't think we might oppose that. We kind of copied it from the Orange County one, so.
And I wouldn't recommend putting an expiration date, because I don't think we really know how long we're going to need it.
Well, the goal is to have everything done in 5 years, but if it slips a little bit,
Right.
But if we want to, we can always extend it if we needed to, but.
So the expiration date would essentially be the completion of the project, or the completion of all of the acquisitions necessary to complete the project. Okay. And yeah, I don't know if it would be wise. I don't know if the term discretion is used in the actual resolution or if it was only used in the staff report. So it might be unnecessary, but I think it's important to state that
Sure.
we are going to offer this for all properties. It won't just be pick and choose per you or anyone else.
Right.
Okay,
No, that's a good point.
Thank you for the information. I appreciate it.
Great points by Director Shaw. Next is Director Avdis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, thank you very much. Obviously, eminent domain actions are something, it's one of the greatest powers that government can exert on individuals. That expropriating of private property for public use should be sparingly used and obviously narrowly and very deliberate in terms of exercising that power. Certainly in this case, we have a very big project in front of us that's going to provide, at times unquantifiable public safety level to our region. So certainly we've met that bar, and I certainly do appreciate the efforts of you and staff to make this process fair to property owners. As you know, property is an extension of us as individuals. When you own a piece of property, it is in fact a piece of you. And sometimes when government comes in, sometimes the fact that people are involved is sometimes lost. And so I'm very pleased to see this proposal to obviously ease that transaction in this case, where we obviously have a very great need for this property that's subject to the eminent domain action. So I do appreciate that consideration for folks, and hopefully that this does provide a mechanism to lessen perhaps sometimes antagonistic sort of relationship between government and private property owners. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Holloway.
Yeah, I just want to take a moment and compliment the agency for doing something on this incentive program that is exactly what private sector real estate purchasers do. If time is of great importance, then this kind of offer of extra dollars for agreeing to the transaction early is very commonly used, and I just wanted to compliment you on that. And I think it's pretty I was pleasantly surprised this creative method that we see coming out of a government-like organization. So good job. I think this will really help to avoid eminent domain.
Thank you. Director Conant.
Yes, I couldn't agree more with the past comments that we don't want to use this. We want to use it as sparingly as possible, but public safety is critical, and that's what our goal and our job is. And if we can't acquire these properties in a timely fashion, we can't do our job, we can't protect the public. So I think that that is critical, that we have moved forward with this plan to acquire these properties in a more expedient manner. Thank you.
Nobody else has punched up. Any other comments? Madam Counsel, we need to take these separately.
Yes, but I was just going to suggest if you want to make it mandatory and take it out of discretion on Resolution 2019-144, Section 1EB, in the second line, you could change authorized to directed.
So when we get to that motion, perhaps Director Shaw would like to make that direction to the motion. So I'll entertain a motion on Resolution A. So move Director Conant. Second by Director Jennings. Sorry about that, Rick. I was going to say
You
Director.
don't see him very often, right?
Well, there's that, but I was going to call him Director Rick, and that seemed inappropriate. Ranger Rick, I don't know. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Resolution A carries, and I'll entertain a motion for Resolution B from Director Shaw here.
A quick comment. First, thank you, Holly, for pointing out that the language in Section 1B. And since it doesn't say discretion necessarily, and the language we use is authorized to offer, I think that's fine, because we also don't want Rick or the agency's arms to be tied if it's a situation where it maybe doesn't meet the minimum criteria and we're saying, well, it's mandatory. So I'm comfortable with the current language. I'm not sure if Director Avdis has another opinion.
Director Avdis.
Just a question, Holly. Now, in terms of eminent domain actions, obviously there's certain tax benefits that are afforded to individuals whose subject is, part of an eminent domain action. I'm assuming by approving this, we're not limiting the options of property owners to obviously work with SAFCA in terms of how the action is.
No, because the offer is being made under the threat of eminent.
So is it at that point that, okay, thank you.
And I'm happy to move the item.
So moved by Director Shaw.
Second.
Second from Director Natoli. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Item number 9, resolution number 2019-145, approving final quantities for the North Area Streams Levee Improvement Project, contract number 4355, Sacramento County, California, with Nordic Great Lakes E&I JV.
Good afternoon, Pete Gelfi, Director of Engineering. This contract was associated with levee improvements along Arcade Creek and portions of the NEMDEC in North Sacramento. The work is complete, and part of their contract actions are to improve the final quantities of the project and to file a notice of completion. The notice of completion allows the subcontractors to be made aware that the retention that we've been holding back on the contractor will soon be released, and to make sure if they had any claims, they can get those in. In addition, as part of that retention, we're going to hold back about $200,000 for some additional materials that we need out of the contractor. But this is a way of having us finalize the quantities and get a notice out to the subcontractors that we're ready to release the retention.
Thank you, Pete. Any discussion from directors? I'll take a motion. Moved by Avdis. Second by Conant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Next item.
Thank you.
Item number 10, resolution number 2019-146, authorizing, recognizing Tom Barandis for his years of service on the Sacramento Area Flood Control Board of Directors.
Okay, well, maybe I'll take this one. Tom, I just want to personally thank you. I think you've been on RD 1000 17 years, is that right? And here on SAFCA since 2014. So I just want to thank you personally and congratulate you on a lot of service to our region in the area of flood control, and you'll certainly be missed. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes. You know, my family, my father and I have, been involved in flood control for many years. He preceded me on the reclamation board. He preceded me here at Safeca. And, I learned from him the value of really working for your community, putting something back, giving time and energy and effort to make your community better. And I've always, I guess, looked fondly at being at Reclamation District 1000 and certainly here at this board. It's, I feel close to my father when I'm here because I know that he thought this organization and the effort was so worthwhile. So I will miss all of you, and I will miss coming to the meetings and participating and trying to make the community, the region better. And I just want to offer to anyone here, anyone on the staff, I'm a longtime resident of Natomas, so if you need any history, if you want any help with anything, please do not hesitate to call, because it would be special for me to, even though not sitting on the board, helping this organization out. So, thank you all.
Well, again, thank you, Tom, and perhaps we can prevail upon your institutional knowledge in the future, because you certainly have a lot of history here. And it's generational, which is pretty rare, actually. Director Avdis.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Tom, I want to tell you how much I've appreciated serving with you on Safeca in these past few years, well, quite a few years, I think. But in any event, and RD 1000, obviously, there was a strong call to service from your family, your father, and obviously from you. And I think that's one of the highest callings that an individual can make in their community, is answering the call to public service. And you certainly did that in a very special way, in a very productive way, in making this place better for all of us. I mean, it really is the contributions of folks like you that make and build the community that we have. And so I wanted to say thank you. And you do have a lot of institutional knowledge, and so you'll be getting a phone call or two or more from me, guaranteed. So thank you, Tom. Thank you.
Director Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Tom, I would just say thank you for your service. I've known you and certainly your father for all the years that I've been with the County of Sacramento, going back to the days when you were both working with the Farm Bureau and certainly with representing folks in agriculture, but also obviously in the Natomas region long before a lot of the other folks have appeared in houses and businesses and so forth. And but I think your service has been a real hallmark, one that you can be proud of, and your father would be proud of you, and as you are of him. And I think, as others have said, I think the experience and the institutional background relative to the history, sometimes those things get overlooked, but they are important. They're important for points of reference when we're making decisions, looking to the future, and to, in this case, improve flood protection for now many tens of thousands of residents, and obviously, life and property. But thank you for your service, certainly on the Reclamation District Board and on this board. And it's, obviously consider you a friend and someone who I've enjoyed working with over the years, because I know that you're not quick to speak, but when you do, we all listen, because, again, you bring a tremendous amount of, I said, experience and good history, and I think a strong commitment to making our community better. And you fulfilled that in lots of ways. So congratulations on your service.
So, Tom, we have a rather lengthy resolution for you here. It's mostly about flood control, but actually I want to read one clause, because you've done a lot more than just flood control work for the community. It says, whereas, in addition to his service on the Safeca Board and the RD 1000 Board of Trustees, Mr. Brandes has contributed to the Sacramento community by serving on the Board of Directors of the California Tomato Growers Association, the Sacramento County Farm Bureau, the California Farm Bureau Commodity Committee, and the Natomas Central Mutual Water Company, as well as being a member of the Sacramento County Water Forum, the Natomas Historical Society, the Facility Planning Committee for Natomas Unified School District, and the City of Sacramento Traffic Calming Committee for the Del Verde neighborhood. Well, that's a lot of service, and we thank you for all of it. So we have this for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, just one last comment. I actually met Tom long before I entered public service. I mean, many, many years ago, we met in a public meeting, and he's been a great guy the whole time. All right, that concludes our business. Do we have any? Oh, we need a motion for this resolution. My apologies. Moved by Abdus, second by Conant. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Oh. One abstention.
Don't want any problem.
So my comment about you being a great guy was maybe iffy. All right, well, thank you very much. The resolution carries. Before we adjourn, do we have any comments by directors? Questions? Our business is complete. We are adjourned. Thank you all.